here. Uh, First order of business is to introduce some of our staff and dignitaries that are here. And Jack, would you like to lead that off?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce our staff. We have our Anoka County Sheriff's Office Liaison, Lieutenant Derek Peters, our City Engineer, Craig Yoakum, our Finance Director, Mike Jazorski, our Public Works Manager, Nate Ashford, our new Fire Chief, Rod Sano, our Building Official, Nick Schmitz, and our City Planner, Aaron Berg.
And so these are folks that when we have an issue, you have a question, you need something done. These are folks that when you call in and email that respond. So that's the majority of our staff. Nate, we have 8 maintenance staff.
7 right now. We're in the process of going there.
And the maintenance staff, that's what takes care of our parks, our city properties, and timely these days is snow plowing. So, these are all our folks that serve the community. We also have with us our commissioner, Julie Brasted. And I don't think I see any other elected officials here.
No.
So with that, Julie, would you like to come forward and introduce yourself? And
Yeah, thank you. Like the mayor said, I'm Julie Brasted, Anoka County Commissioner, and I'm happy to say I'll get to represent you for the next 4 years. The election just wrapped up, and very surprisingly, I was unopposed, but very thankful. It was kind of a crazy election year. So our county was redistricted, so all 7 of us county commissioners were on the ballot this year. And I was very happy that East Bethel was still included in my district. So my county commissioner district starts, like if you can picture Northern Blaine, basically County 14, 242 Main Street, all the way up Highway 65 to the Sandy border. And the changes for me this year are that now I have St. Francis east of the river, and then I have 3 precincts of Oak Grove. Basically the 3 precincts that are like north of Viking Boulevard. So St. Francis and Oak Grove are new to me, so I'm anxious I've been out meeting people and getting to know those communities and those councils as well. As a county commissioner, my priorities continue to be public safety. I am vice chair of the county board, but I chair our public safety committee. So I work close with our sheriff's office, the local police departments, emergency management, 911, and anything kind of under that public safety realm. A priority of Anoka County has been economic development. A few years ago, we created an economic development director position to be a liaison to all 21 communities within our county. They work with Stephanie here, and I just heard Stephanie's days are numbered with the city, so I am disappointed. She's been a pleasure to work with. So we're concentrating on, we kind of went through a rebranding and are involved with some different regional economic development things, and just want to tell people and educate people what a great place Anoka County really is to live, work, and play. It's, we tend in the metro area to have the lowest tax levies, tax rates, which I think is pretty encouraging for people to be able to come here and be able to afford the things that they want. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Do you guys have any questions for me? County-wise, we came in, our levy we ended up having some savings because of COVID and some of the ARPA and CARES dollars. And so I think that's a really good thing for Anoka County residents. But I'm always just a phone call away. So congratulations to the new council. And I look forward to just talking to you more. So thanks.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
And what Julie said as being only a phone call away is, you couldn't be more true, because I know I hear from residents that contact Commissioner Brasted, and definitely their service there for sure. So we're fortunate that you're going to be here for another 4 years. So, and along elections, there's going to be some changes to this table. One already happened this week. Kevin Lewis won the special election for that seat, and took the seat Monday night. So Kevin's our newest council member. And then come January, Tim Miller is back here. Is our new one of our new council members, and then Jim Smith in the back row is also a new council member. So we're gonna have 3 new faces on a council. It's gonna be interesting to watch, to see how this council develops. So, but lots of changes. We all know we have a new sheriff this year, and there's gonna be a lot of changes around the communities. So with that, we're gonna open up to the question and answer portion of tonight's meeting, our town hall, and the microphone's open to any subject you'd like to talk about, have questions, statements. We just ask that you come up to the microphone so everyone could hear you well. So who would like to go first?
Not everyone at once.
Front row, all right.
Will, let's see, our new sheriff come and visit us at one of our council meetings?
I fully expect Mr. Wise will. So we can, our liaison will communicate that.
And perhaps Tom Emmer again? Or he'll be too busy in Washington,
I
I
don't know if
imagine.
we've ever had Congressman Emmer actually here.
We
Yeah.
did once. I
Was it
think.
once?
At least once.
Okay.
Yeah,
A lot of times a staff member will come for the council, or for a congressman, I know, so.
okay, I was just wondering if we were gonna have any new guests.
Okay. Anyone else? And if you'd like, state your name for record.
Good evening and congratulations to the new electees and the new fire chief and the new liaison. My name is Oscar Granquist. I sit on the EDA. And I'm excited about looking forward to the oncoming new members that'll be representing our city. In that, I'm kind of curious as to what some of the top priority action items would be that we'd be looking at moving forward. Thank you.
Okay.
That would be related to, it could be housing, it could be infrastructure, it could be first responder services, it could be community outreach, engagement, such like that. Thank you.
So, you want to comment on that?
I'll defer to
Okay.
the mayor.
I think probably a question like that, probably better directly have those conversations. They're here tonight. And when we're done here, we'll be next door too. But in terms of what's going on in the community, there is new developments that have been coming in. The newest one, it actually hasn't even been the council yet, it just went through planning, is a townhome development off of Sand Hill Parkway on the east side of Highway 65. And I think, is that coming in on the 28th
Correct.
to council? So, and I believe Jackie gave the details, but I think it's 212 townhomes that
It's,
development?
yeah, that would be the max, and it could be down to 196 to 212, depending on the final phase of one strip.
Okay, okay. So if anyone's paid attention, I know it's been on Facebook a couple of times, some other concept plans for the area, and it's gonna include some commercial. We haven't seen any details on that. But that's probably the newest thing, the biggest thing coming up, that this new council will have to deal with next year. So we'll have the preliminary plat in a couple weeks here, but, so that's a new development going on. Yes.
Where was that again?
It's on the east side of Highway 65, south of Viking, the new frontage road that was put in last year. And so it's gonna be right off of there.
At the former location of Another Man's Treasures, and building those tore
Right.
down that area.
Where our one and only roundabout is located, so.
If I could say one thing, it would be to encourage everybody you know to pay close attention to that particular project, and to attend the meetings and really inform themselves, because it is a big deal. It's a big project and has a lot of consequences, so it's worth the attention. Not everything is, but this is one that really is worth their attention.
So that, in terms of development, broadband, we've been working on broadband. Jack, you wanna give a little update where we're at?
One of the priorities of this council has been to improve broadband internet service in the city. The city actually commissioned a study to be done to identify those needs. That was completed and presented earlier this year. One of the surprising things about it was it showed that there was more broadband service than we originally thought. But a lot of that is due to definition, the way they count service, so there's still a lot of needs out there. The city has been working with Midco, and we've identified 2 major projects. We've looked at funding for those, we're still working on that. In the meantime, the county also did a study too, where they're looking at doing some fixed wireless service to do short-term improvements to internet service. Right now, we're waiting to see if their grant that they submitted to DEED is going to be approved. If it is, we'll have to look and balance what their proposals would be for service in East Bethel versus what we would have to do, and then we'll make a decision on which direction to go there. But the city is very interested in improving that service. We feel it's essential, and it's one of the things, it's just like electrical, water, and sewer, it's gonna be necessary for the economic development and also for even people in the rural areas, because we found out during COVID that a lot of people worked from home, a lot of kids stayed home and did distance learning. A lot of people use it for entertainment, and it's their way they connect with everybody in society nowadays. So broadband is a very useful service, and we're looking at ways to improve that.
And I got one comment that I found out today that Viking Meadows is gonna be open again next year. One of their major investors backed out, and they've got some issues with chemicals on their greens. They used to use mercury on their greens at one time to kill snow mold, so Viking's gonna open back up this next spring. They were getting ready to auction everything off, and they told them today to get everything ready for spring again, so Viking Meadows will be ready for the spring.
And that, it's probably not widely known that, you know, it was announced that the golf course was sold. And that's, that course is obviously within the sewer and water district, so that would be, when that does eventually sell, because they've been wanting to sell, I think, for a while, but when it does sell, I mean, that's gonna be another significant development that's gonna occur that, the next council will have to deal with. I've been saying that a lot, the next council, so I wonder why. Come on, there's gotta be a question you've been dying to ask us. What else do you wanna hear about? It's one thing five of us can do is talk, so.
Is there anything about the levy or the new budget for next year?
There you go, Brian, talk about our budget.
That, of course, now, right now is budget time. We have a process that it starts in January for the next year coming up that our city accountant, Mike, spends a lot of time on. So thank you, Mike. And it is presented to us a couple times by the summer. And then in September, we have to pass a preliminary levy. That means that at this point, once it's approved, the levy cannot be increased, but it could still be decreased. And then if there's any more discussion on the levy, it will happen until December when the final levy gets approved. Over many meetings that we've had so far, the whole council has came together along with help from Mike and Jack and the other staff, that we've gotten it down to 0.9 increase, which I think has been the lowest budget increase in many, many years. So
Yeah, and
we're-
that's, I mean, the full story then is, originally we were looking at a 2% increase for a levy, and that's where we were heading. And then we got the new contract from our county, and for our sheriff's contract, which was a 8% increase at that time. So it kind of
yeah, and
messed up our tables a little bit, and council worked with the sheriff's department, and we made some cuts and found some cuts we can make within our own budget, and managed our cash flow a little bit differently, and got the levy increase down to less than 1%.
And I don't know if you can read this chart or not, but the only levy increase in the county that was lower than ours was the county's. East Bethel has the lowest levy increase of all the 21 cities in Anoka County for 2023. Our surrounding neighbors, Ham Lake, Oak Grove, and St. Francis, had levy increases of 14 to 19%. So if anybody would like a copy of this, I'll be glad to furnish it to them, so.
Yeah, I would like a copy of
All
it.
right.
That's amazing. Yes,
Chad, was there any rollover funds to transfer from the last budget into this? Is that part of that new number?
That's correct. There was $145,000 surplus we had in the general fund that was rolled over to apply to next year's levy.
I don't know if we'd really want to call it a surplus. It's just
Yeah.
money that's kind of added
Yeah.
up over many years that, because when we do the county and set budget out, those are estimated numbers. And so,
Yeah, yeah.
yep, so that's what that is.
Thank you, Brian.
It's gonna be an unusual year for circumstances beyond any of our control, and that's the Federal Reserve. Because we all know how real estate prices were going. I mean, it's a per ad valorem type levy, right? It's per thousand, a mill rate. And so you had property taxes going up wildly earlier in the year, and they've been declining since late June, early July, somewhere in there, depending on the, where and when. But so it's gonna be kind of interesting when the assessment is based on, what period. And I don't know the answer to that. I've dealt with Ken Tellison for a long time, somewhat contentiously at times, on the valuations on our property. And I used to be on real estate and commercial real estate and stuff. So it's an unusual year because it's not like a steady state, it's been up and down. So I'm kind of interested to see what he comes up with for valuations. But if it's based on like late May, early June, or heavily weighted that way, then it doesn't take much of an increase in the mill rate to make a considerable more tax collections for the city, because the value of what you're taxing is going up substantially. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. Might be a lot of us in front of the Appeal and Equalization Board in the near future.
another in terms of our budget and the city's spending, every year we're audited, and the audit report this year had actually reported the same thing past previous years. There's always one table I always focus on, and that's the East Bethel has one of the lowest per capita spending on our city services. So what that means is we spend the lowest tax dollars on our services, but what it doesn't say is we also deliver, you know, quality services for those tax dollars. So to me, it's like the best way of looking at how we deliver services from a cost standpoint. So and then to see that we've got the lowest cost levy increase in the entire county is pretty good. So.
But if you do have any questions or concerns about the level of your services, please contact City Hall, let Jack or somebody else know, so that we know, and if it's a concern, we may be able to do something about it to improve it. We can't do anything unless we know about it.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Joe Ryder. Congratulations, Mayor-elect Harrington, Councilmember Lewis. My question's for Jack. How do you feel staffing levels are right now? And if we had East Bethel won the lottery per se, where would you choose to increase staffing right away?
That's a good question, Joe. First of all, the city is operating with one additional staff member over what the amount was in 2010, with the workload having increased significantly during that period. There's always some need for additional clerical support. One of the things we'd like to do is start converting all of our documents electronically so they can be accessed on the internet. We would try to hire somebody to do that and get it done in 1 year rather than spread it out over 3 or 4 years. We also have potential staffing needs within the fire department. It's becoming more difficult to get volunteers. There's a need for probably some additional day responders. That's one of the things we'll be talking about soon, about how to address that. But from my standpoint, it would be staff members to address the issue of converting all of our documents electronically and addressing the fire department needs.
On that note, Jack, will the fire department, the incoming new chief, will he be making a presentation at some point addressing those staffing shortages and what immediate needs may be?
Actually, we'll probably begin discussion at our work meeting in February. They're working on some ideas, proposals, and costs to address those things now, so we'll probably bring that up and begin those discussions in first Monday of February 2023.
What else? Throw out a subject, somebody. We're not leaving at 7:30 for my last town hall meeting, no way.
Could I ask all of you a question? It comes up a lot. In fact, Randy Plaisance, my wife, and I were talking about it before we came in here. And that is what is the best method to increase the quality, not necessarily the quantity, but that too, I guess, of the communication between the residents of East Bethel and the city of East Bethel? Because it's like there are different channels, and none of them is really robust. There are East Bethel Facebook sites, but it's not like there's, 100 or even 1,000 people a day on there. It's, not real active. But what are your ideas as far as the best way to increase the quality of communication from the city to the residents, and like Brian was getting at, from the residents to the city? Whether it's on board or staff, it doesn't, whatever. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Do you want me to come up or can I just stay here?
Please come up. We're recording. Unless you talk into a microphone, then the people of East Bethel can't hear you.
All right, again, my name is Oscar Granquist. I work on large infrastructure projects around the country. A lot of it involves multiple agencies, right-of-ways, communities, sovereign nations, military, civilian, and so on and so forth. I find that one of the most common sense approaches to any project or any government is just having available communications and access to communications with reasonable notice. For example, if we're holding a town hall meeting or we're going to be discussing something that's going to affect every citizen in our community, whether it's tax-based or not, I think a little bit more notice, what I mean by reasonable notice is 5 to 10 days, because a lot of folks like myself, we travel,
Right.
even if we have virtual meetings at home and whatnot. So I think a little bit more accommodation on that side might be a nice thing. I
Could
think,
I ask you a question
Yes,
on
sir.
that? What is the means of the communication? I
So-
agree with the notice, so I just wonder.
yeah, so I'm getting to that as well,
Okay,
thank you. So because the internet, Facebook, you're seeing more and more of the commercialization on Facebook media.
Please don't say TikTok, okay?
No, I'm not a fan of that, but I don't want to go into that right now. But what I'm saying is electronic conveyance is a very, very mainstream focal point. A lot of people have access to it. We're carrying our phones or handhelds. You don't need to go back to your laptop in your office anymore and check your emails. So the information is instantaneous. In my opinion, in this day and age, there is no excuse not to have information put out as soon as possible, as soon as reasonable. It doesn't mean that over-information is good as well. That could be
Right.
just as damning as not providing enough information. But what I would look at is maybe a little bit more reasonable notice on when these meetings are coming up. I love our paper. I like the news presentations on TV, but I think some of these meetings are kind of like, oh, I just got this notice today, or I just got it yesterday, and I wish I had a little bit more notice because I have other priorities going in my life, but I would also like to participate. And I think there's a lot of that. And this is a general comment, but I would just like to see more community engagement, more outreach. I know that's an open box, and we're never going to make 100% of the people happy all the time. But I think if people know that you're just trying to engage them and ask them, just put that olive branch out there a little more frequently, that may be a good thing to do, along with a little bit more notice on some of these meetings or town halls and what have you. I love the town hall meetings. I wish I was able to attend more of them myself. But I think, especially now that things are changing so dynamically across the country, having a little bit more of that engagement might be a good idea.
Thank you.
That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Karen. Just to tag on to Oscar's, it'd be kind of cool if you went to the city website. There was just like a one button to click that you want to be informed of stuff, and then just pick the checklist of which items you want. So for example, right now, I mean, you can go and sign up if you want to receive emails of any of the packets for any of the different commissions, but you have to select all those. It'd be kind of cool if there's one button to say, hey, I want to be informed, and then just check which options that you want to receive. Because then they can always unsubscribe from something that they don't want to. And then that could be promoted easily at booster days, and just, again, getting that awareness out there. If information can come to people, they'll get it. We can't go make people want to get it, but the easiest that we can make it to get what they want, then if they're getting all that, they might, gosh, oh, maybe I want to find out about this and this and this kind of thing. So, my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good idea.
The communication aspect is, for all the years I've been involved, is the most challenging and frustrating part of it. To find a way to not only communicate to the public, but to get the feedback. And that's what all of us need and want. And it's always that challenge, and it's always something that, you continue to try to find better ways. But it's like Karen said, you can't force people to read things. And, even, 15 years ago when we were, the whole sewer and water was the issue. And boy, there was people talking at town hall when it was sewer and water, so. But the city actually sent out letters to every resident in the city, every address, to talk about the meetings, and still didn't get a whole lot of more response because of it, so.
I-
And we still get people that said they never knew, even though we had.
I think it was sent out twice, in fact.
It might have been, it might have been, but because then it was so important that, like Kevin said, to get the news out to people so they understand what's going on in the community, and that obviously was something big, but it's like I said, you can't make people read, and,
Well, the good news is we do have, I mean, I'm not cyber illiterate, but I'm slightly above that, but not a whole bunch. So I find the website we have pretty user-friendly. I mean, I complimented Carrie on it today. It's very workable. And that's an interesting idea that you have as an add-on to that site, and then you use the bulletin, East Bethel Bulletin, with just a page that tells you exactly how to do it, and maybe follow it up with a mailer. Maybe we should hire someone for X number of dollars to look at our communication from the city to the residents and vice versa, and just come up with a plan. Maybe that would be a good use of money, but this is a persistent obstacle for all of us, and it's very frustrating. And I have to believe there's a means of doing it. I really do, based on what you were saying, and that is we've never been so over-communicated as human beings in the history of the world. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. So thank you for the input.
Jack, is this stuff we can put like on Channel 10 too, for like these meetings, and then we got the reader board down there too on.
We've got a lot of outlets we can use, and actually, we started having this discussion a couple of weeks ago, and trying to figure out what's the best way to make it the most visible and the most user-friendly. So we're starting to look at some things there, how the website could possibly be modified to reflect what Karen brought up and what Oscar mentioned. And, it may come down to what you said, Kevin. This may be something where, we need a little bit more expert help to really refine this and make it really workable.
This has to be something that every municipality is dealing with.
Oh,
There's gotta be someone with a lot of experience working with small cities.
It is, and communications is like Steve said, is their number one challenge.
Yeah,
And especially in East Bethel, where we have a large geographic area
yeah.
and people are spread apart. We don't have a city newspaper. We don't have a high school here. We don't have things where a lot of people congregate and kind of share ideas and interact with each other. So that creates more of a challenge. We do have a reader board, but the reader board has a lot of disadvantages, and generally you can only read it if you're stopped at the traffic light. Or you can read one message and there may be 11 up there, but we're starting to look into that, and I think that's one thing that we should put on our agenda as a goal for the next year, to explore means to improve our means of communications with our residents.
And I'll get right to you.
And,
I just want to add that last year we looked at a position
Communications director.
for communications. And as councils do, we had to weigh our benefits and costs, and we ended up filling another position that was needed within the city too. So that may be in the future too, get a communication person.
Yeah, and to add to one more thing on the website, it's been in construction and repair over many years. A couple years ago, we did have a developer that had never been to the city that reviewed all the information he needed on the website. And once he did that, he came up here and came into City Hall and said, "This is it? This is East Bethel? By your website, I thought it was going to be much, much bigger." The quality of the website was to such a degree that he thought we were a bigger city. So that's at least a pat on our back as far as the quality that we have now, but not to say it can't be improved, because it always can be. So I just wanted to.
Sure.
Well, I was just going to suggest, perhaps there was some way that you could communicate with other city councils in the area and just kind of compare notes of how do they get their information out. Sometimes,
No, it's a
you
good
don't have to
idea.
reinvent the wheel. Somebody might
Exactly.
have a good
I don't like
procedure.
reinventing wheels. I don't like doing that.
Yeah, and suggestions can always come from residents. I had residents communicate with me about 3 weeks ago about something that we could add to the website, and I brought it attention at the work meeting, and it will be instituted in our website as far as how public notices are shared, because other cities do it like that. So it's such a good idea. Why didn't we think of it? But it's that's why we need a whole city to have their input and say, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, and that's how we can improve.
Hi there, Sassy Calhoun, resident of East Bethel. I was just thinking, because Jack, you mentioned that you guys have already done a study for the broadband. So based on that study, you should have a pretty good picture of your age demographic of the people that live here and who has internet and who doesn't, and in which areas. So based on that, you should be able to say, okay, this group has it, this many citizens probably have it, and this many don't. So you would know potentially how many could, if they wanted to, go to either a Facebook or the website and see it. So that would be number one. I would look at that info you already have, because you've got great info that you've already paid to have. And once you know that, and then make sure people really know that these things are available, because, and I mean, there's, I think, 3 different Facebook sites. There's What's Up East Bethel, there's What's Happening East Bethel, there's East Bethel, the community, then there's the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, Chamber of Commerce didn't put anything about this on it tonight. I put it on the 2 What's Up and What's Happening, just because I found out about it because I got it in the email today. So I think we didn't have any idea what was going on until today. And had we known earlier, I mean, we'd still be here, but because we're here now. But I don't know how many other people maybe didn't know and would have changed stuff they were gonna do so that they could be here. So if it maybe came out 3 days ahead of time before the meeting, as opposed to the day of the meeting, that way there's planning. But also, within that demographic of who has internet and who doesn't, what you were also saying about the news station, having stuff on there, because most people have TV. I mean, even if you don't like the TV, you have it, if nothing else, so you know what your weather is. So you probably then have Channel 10. And that's probably, I mean, maybe not everybody, but I bet darn near, because we all want to know if there's a tornado coming. So, I mean, that's the only reason I have TV, is so I know what my weather is, you know? But the other thing, booster days, great way, because that's a lot of people that are there. Great place to have any kind of information, that what the website is, what the emails are, a sign up for people. You can do it all digitally now, or you can scan stuff in, so you don't have to like sit there with paper later on, and just have it. So you've captured people and you've captured your residents. I mean, I do a ton of marketing, you know, so I mean, that's how I kind of know it. But I love the Facebook groups, but I mean, we all know that they're not run by the city. They're run by whoever runs them, which is fine, and God bless them that they do it, because otherwise we wouldn't, you know, maybe know what's happening. But maybe something that because people go there, then maybe everybody on the city council and everybody should be on there. So, if I mean, Steve, you always, Mayor Voss, you always answer. You know, you always are proactive, and people ask you questions and you answer them, which is wonderful, because they may be afraid to call you or not want to email you. And so you do, and that, it's true, because people could be intimidated and say, well, I can't possibly, you know? So it's nice that when you guys are on those platforms and we can access you as citizens, and we're not afraid, I guess, so. I don't know, that's
We're
it.
just neighbors.
Oh, no, I know, and I get it, but it's just, you never know how people are in their own world, and
Yeah,
people, you know, don't want to do whatever they don't want to do. But
Yeah.
just something to think about.
Okay,
Thank you.
This is, that was, a lot of that is discussion we had at the Finance Committee about the communications position. And the tough part is it's obviously, it's a big expenditure to add a new staff member. So I suspect the council will continue to have those discussions in the coming next year here, so. What else we got? Okay.
Get my money's worth. Joe Ryder again. Jack or Steve, you guys have been here long enough. Has the city ever done a citywide survey or try to get a pulse of the citizens? Like ask, what do you guys want from the city? Or anything like that?
We've done surveys in the past. Parks did one.
There was one, the last one that I recall was that one, and Parks did a extensive survey, but this was in 2008.
Right.
It's been a long time ago since anything like that was attempted, and that may be something we need to look at.
And I want to say when we did the big rebuild of the website, we sent out a citywide survey, and we also, I know we've had a couple online surveys that we've tried to get input on various things, various projects.
There's been several, but they've been isolated to specific things, like when we did the EDA market study, but that was essentially concentrated on businesses. There was an extensive survey done on that, but to do an overall general survey to the degree you're talking about, I don't think anyone's been done at that level.
Did we do one with the 2040 comp plan?
We sent out notices to everybody about the comp plan. There were about 15 meetings on
Yeah, there were
that.
many meetings with those.
And, requested opinions, and I think we did do an actual mailing out to everybody requesting their input on the comp plan, so. But, the thing about surveys is, you really need to find somebody that can design one that can give you good data and good feedback.
I guess not quite a follow-up, but almost. Has the city looked at any of the census data around like what people are employed in or their professionals, and then push that to the EDA to try to get more businesses to come up here and interested? Like in my neighborhood, for example, there's a lot of work from home, administrative type people. I see a lot of like CNC operators and even engineers around here, and they're all driving 20, 30 minutes to work. They're in south of Blaine or even in Minneapolis. I feel like that'd be a really good, call to business to say, hey, we got employment opportunities up here. There's a lot of people that want to work, don't want to drive. With all the development you guys are trying to do around the water district, I mean, that'd be a great opportunity to put industrial as well.
Those are things that we've looked at and discussed. The EDA has done some work on that too with the market study they did in 2013, which some of the results of that are still valid. We also looked at it too in the business recruitment and retention program that they did. And, we found out that there are certain groups that are highly represented, especially people in the trades. There's a large group of those people here. The biggest problem we've had in marketing for the EDA, especially for industrial, is we don't have any sites to offer. We're at the mercy of private landowners. There have been some discussions here recently that may change that. And I'm working on a few things, and I'll be able to hopefully report on that here in a couple months as to where we are with some things. But no, we have matched some of those demographics up and contacting people and say, here it is. One of the things with Aggressive Hydraulics located here, that was one of the things that they looked at too. A lot of their people lived closer up here. There was a lot of people that would fit some of their needs for employment, and they used that as part of their decision-making process to come to East Bethel.
Oscar Granquist again. We're going to have to switch rows because it seems like we're all sitting in that cluster together. So we're not trying to, I'm just trying to accommodate getting out of here before 8 or right around 8, Mayor Voss, because you didn't want it to end at 7:30. But there's no football on tonight, so that's good. Quick talking point. Looking at the high technology corridor that's going on between Centerville, Hugo, Lino Lakes, all the way up to Forest Lake, we're seeing a huge migration of expansion of high technology companies, similar to what we have here in Bethel, East Bethel, Chandler Industries, for example. High technology aerospace and defense firm. As somebody else mentioned, there's 1 million micro CNC, high technology, millwright type companies that are doing massive works for DoD and Department of Energy. And looking at some of the comments that have been made here tonight, the types of businesses we want to attract and those that we want to retain and expand and invest here and be long-term partners with our tax base. You know, that'll be a challenge that's forthcoming for the months down the road as we look at what types of businesses we want to bring in here for sustainability of East Bethel, while still differentiating ourselves as a quasi-semi-farm ag community, which we love. We have the wetlands and whatnot. We want to protect those assets. Going back to the communication aspect, in some areas, they use a shared asset as a community outreach marketing person. So even though they have an economic development director per se, sometimes you'll have to do an email blitz or a marketing blitz, and you want to reach everybody that's a voting member in that community or a taxpayer in that community. So some smaller townships, like a co-op, they will use a shared asset where they bring them in for so many hours a month. And you give them a hit list of what it is that you want them to work on, an action item list. And they're billed out by the hour. It doesn't come off a salary, they don't get benefits. They'd be a 1099er basically. But in some smaller communities, they share this asset that can come in because that's all they do is marketing. They know the best and the quickest and the farthest traction for your buck, so to speak, that's going to hit your target audience with the message that you want. That may be one school of thought to think about if we don't have the budget to bring on a full-time person, but it would also take some of the constraints off the economic development director and allow that person to say, okay, delegate this, delegate this. We bring in somebody that's only going to be needed so many hours a month, that may be somebody upstairs, up the road from us, or down south, or east or west. We say, yeah, we use this person 20 hours a quarter. They're a great asset. They're on call. We bring them in, we interview them, we talk to them, say, okay, show us what you've done for our neighboring city. And that could be an asset that we might want to consider looking at.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
One other asset that we've employed in marketing and economic development is a great partnership with the county through the AC RED program, that stands for Anoka County Regional Economic Development. That program has had two exceptional employees and hired what we think is going to be the third one. The problem with those is those people have been so good that they've only lasted a couple of years and they've been hired away by somebody else. So it seems like we're in the process of starting over again several times. But we have got some useful information, great cooperation, and great attention to a lot of our needs from this. And Julie, we thank the county for that. That's been a wonderful thing, and it's been of great value to us.
Okay. Mr. Plassance.
Randy Plassance, thank you for showing up this evening and talking to all of us. I would like to congratulate the new members for City Council. I would also like to thank Suzanne Urkel and Steve Voss for your service to the city that you have done in the past. I know that both of you have put your heart and soul into what you thought was best for the city, and I thank you for that. I just kind of want to go back to what Oscar said about bringing in some high technology companies here to East Bethel. And to be honest, I mean, that sounds wonderful, but I just want everyone to be aware that I know that the city has looked into some of these businesses / programs, and I know that when the CHIPS bill came out, that there was some interest through RED about whether or not we could find a chip developer to actually build a plant. And the way I understand it, the difficulty for East Bethel is that it needs to increase its 3 major highways into the city, which is the roads, the internet connection, because you're going to need a much bigger pipeline for internet in order for these companies to operate. And the third highway is the electrical. So we don't currently have the capacity within the city to create, large companies with the power that it requires to make those companies operate. So, I mean, if that's the way the city wants to go, all the more power to, all of us. But I think that, the amount of money that it would take to create the infrastructure for those companies would be a little bit more than we would be willing to do. That's just an assumption on my part. But I still think that there are, some, definites that people still want a grocery store. And, along with that comes some minor improvements, in order to make that happen. So thank you for allowing me to comment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, yeah, we had the conversation a couple of years ago about the high tech, and exactly what Randy was saying, the fact that we don't have shovel-ready, and don't have the electric there, and don't have the internet there. And when these things come up, they're looking for communities that are all set to go. And that's why it's usually, that Shakopee Jordan corridor, that's always a high demand area. It's because they have that infrastructure. And we just don't have that infrastructure. And I think, the discussion we had before is, nor do we have the will to put in the infrastructure to attract that, so.
And a lot of it is beyond our control too, especially things with the electrical power grid. One of the things I think Randy was talking about is we did have, when I say we, I mean the North Metro area. And this was a link and a tip that was given us to by deed and AC Red with the county. There was a large semiconductor operation that was looking for a location in the Minneapolis area. This was one of them, but when we checked with their power availability for what their requirements were, Connexa says there's no way they can supply that. So, some things we are limited, and, we'll never be able to do those on our own. Those are gonna have to have assistance from some of the partners that we work with and are located here. There's lots of challenges here, but what we want to do is put ourselves in position, and that's what we've been constantly working for, to be able to attract some of those things we've been talking about tonight. So the one thing we can work on is our access to broadband and internet service to meet business needs and also to meet residential needs, and to do things to work with landowners to get their, at least, cooperation or their interest in selling sites, so we would have something to market or have something we can refer people to. Because when somebody comes in here, generally we have to have a response in by 30 days. Generally, when you're negotiating or trying to get a land sale effected, you're talking about at least a year to get that taken care of. So we are talking with some landowners and trying to get their interest and making sure that they're on board. So if we come to them and direct them to them, and they'll know that they may receive some inquiries on some development activities.
Okay. What else? Blurt something out.
I already did, budget.
You did, all right, okay. This side of the table. Well, I think the important thing is that, from the five of us is, well, I'm gonna include Kevin, he's new, but the ability to contact any of the council members there's really no reason to say you can't get hold of any of us. We all respond, we all have email. Phone meetings, so that's what we're here for, is to hear from you, so.
Or get a hold of Jack, he'll get a hold of us. There's one way or another, you can talk to us one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad, in years past, we talked about back in these town halls down to once a year, and I think we've pretty much just said twice a year works pretty good for everyone. I just kind of reading tea leaves and looking into the future, I think our city's gonna get busier before it gets not busy. So I think there's gonna be a lot more issues that'll come up, and And just like with anything else that grows, there's growing pains, and it's up to the community to work through that and find the best solution for where our future's going. You know, the one thing I'll say is in terms of kind of the long-range planning, and that's kind of been my ballywig over the years, is really looking forward and being prepared for what's going to happen. And I think our city's done a really good job, particularly with our comp plans and the fact that it was put together by the community, so that makes it a stronger plan. And I think as long as we maintain that and you know, the kind of the cornerstone of our comp plan is only allow new commercial and higher density residential development along the highway, and the rest of the city remains the same, just like how we like it. And I think it was a realization that development happens, but let's make sure it happens on our terms and the way we want it, and not let development drive development. So it's going to get more challenging here as development gets further out of the city. So these meetings and this communication is very important for everyone. So I'm glad everyone's here. I will say one thing. It was a bit of short notice, but Suzanne on Monday brought up the idea of bringing donations for NACE tonight. I actually remembered, and I brought a bag. For those that don't know, NACE is our local food shelf. It's been in East Bethel for as long as I remember. It started in the basement of Our Savior's Church. And over the past couple of years, the clientele that they serve in our community has tripled. And unfortunately, their volunteer staff has not. So they're constantly looking for volunteers and always looking for donations. So it's a great organization. There's a lot of volunteers that are involved. If anyone's wants to volunteer just once, just give them a call, and you'll see what it's like. But it's important for our community, and it's nice the fact that it's in East Bethel as well. So it's been a mainstay. I know the Fire Department Auxiliary and the Relief Association have both been strong supporters of NACE in years past, and will continue to be. So they're in a little bit of need for some help right now. So anyone out there watching, just give them a call, and I'm sure they can work something out. So.
And with that, the next drive we're doing is a Toys for Joy drive. So right after Thanksgiving, you can start bringing toys up to City Hall, and they're gonna be taken down to the Blaine Airport, and they're gonna distribute them from there.
Is there going to be a box up here or something?
Jack said he'd get a box out for us.
Okay, good.
And on that, Steve, I'd like to mention too that on December 10th, the fire department's going to be out that Saturday night driving through neighborhoods, and they're going to be collecting food from NACE too. So I think the map's on the website. You can, if you're in there, you can be out there and see the fire trucks come by and donate some food. So
They got the neighborhood routes are on a map, and I think a lot of them are different from last year.
yeah, they changed them up.
They
yeah.
changed around, so
Yeah.
there's different neighborhoods.
I mean, it's a big area to cover, so they can't cover it all in one night. They try to get what they can and then move it every year, move it in different neighborhoods, so.
But it's good for food. Last year, they went through 3 pickup trucks.
3 pickup truckloads we took to NACE last
for
year.
food,
Yep.
just the people coming out the end of the driveway. So it's a real easy thing to do, so. Okay, if there's anything else, well, I'll thank everyone for being here. It's wonderful that you turn out. Thank staff for being here as well. We will, after we leave here, go back to the community center. I'm sure there's still some cookies left and some coffee, and council members will be available, the new council members there too, if you want to talk to them. But unless there's anything else. All right. Thank you everyone for being here, and we'll move over next door.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we will adjourn. Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll do my first second.
There you go, for a second. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Our meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys.